This is a place.
This is the place?
This is a place. We want to talk about. This is a place. Welcome to this week's episode of This is a Place podcast. My name is Nate, and with me is a guy who says you'll always stay young if you live honestly, eat slowly, sleep sufficiently, work hard, worship faithfully, and lie about your age. Brandon.
That last one is the biggest key.
Yeah.
You'll always be young if you lie about your age.
You just lie. I have a lot of people tell me that they're surprised to find out how old I am. So I always tell them I'm just really immature for my age.
Because people usually think you're younger.
They think I'm younger. And I do have the beard. I probably mentioned this before. I do the beard because if I shave, I look like a child. And then I'm also pretty immature for my age. So I'm not going to hide that fact.
Where do you think I'm at? Do I seem my age?
No, you actually look older for your age, I think.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I'm sorry, but not to get too personal, but
Okay. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. It's your top of your head that ages you.
And prepare for the first F word of the podcast.
Father? Fudge?
I wonder if there's a way. We're talking about a health clinic today. I should have asked if they had an alternative, something I could do.
Ooh, yeah.
To combat that. It's too late now.
Maybe the electric shockwave stuff.
You put it on your head and it helps your hair follicles come back to their former glory.
But I can't wait till I start going bald. Why, you ask? So I can shave my head and have an excuse for it.
Well, you could do it now anyway.
I know, but I think I got a limited amount of time before it's shave your head time. My wife does not like the shaved head, which is crazy. Everybody says that too, because they're used to me having a little bit longer hair. And then I shave my head, and then after a while, like, oh, I really like it. But then, anyways, I love a shaved head. It's just so convenient. You can stick your head out a window. Don't have to worry about your hair messing up. Put a hat on, take it off at any time. No big deal. Save a lot of money on shampoo.
Make excellent points.
And
I'm still not there.
And you save money on haircuts because you just do it yourself. So it usually cost me, when I would shave my head for a few years, it just cost me the price of hair clippers once a year.
Your power bill.
And your power bill. 3 cents it costs to power it up for 10 minutes.
That's a very minimal cost.
Yeah. But I've had a lot of people tell me when I do shave my head that I look mean. Like I'm some big tough guy. But I tell you what.
Prison Nate.
Yeah, I always tell the story that I used to go to the gym a lot, not much anymore. And I was going to the gym almost daily. And there's a couple of guys that would kind of nod to you, whatever, right? That you see all the time. And then as soon as I shaved my head, like all the tough, like big muscular dudes were like paying attention to me. Like, oh, like they'd give me the, what's up, dude? I'm like, I'm the same guy that was here yesterday. And you can still kick my butt. I'm still a wuss. But it's like I fit in, I was one of the tough guys now.
Maybe that's what I need to do to step up my gym game. Stop wearing a hat and just embrace where my hair is going.
Yeah. Shave your head, man. Do it.
I'll wait until I hear back from our guest today, Tish, to tell me if there is something they can do for me. And then maybe I'll decide from there.
An alternative.
Functional is what you're supposed to say. A functional alternative. How'd you say that? A functional option to help out. But yeah, it's hinted at. We visited it's called the Rising Health Clinic. They reached out to us and invited us to come check it out. and that's what we did. So we'd like to share our experience. You want to share the experience, or do you want to hear from the lady herself first?
I think we should hear from the lady first so that we can get a good idea of what we're talking about.
Yeah,
And
she
then
can
we'll
introduce some of the things we tried out. So
and then we can share our experiences.
yeah, so let's hit it. Roll the tape.
Roll the tape.
So my name is Tish Curtis, and I work at Rising Health. I've worked in functional medicine for about 6 or 7 years. I really like it because we're looking at the body as a whole, not just prescribing a pill for a symptom. I went to school to be an MA. I've loved it. I've always loved everything to do with natural and healthy healing because I am one of those systems that are super sensitive to medications and stuff. And I did not have an easy time with any of it. So it's like, I got to look at an alternative route. Anyway, and along the way, I've just found a lot of fascinating, fun things to do with just healing the body as a whole instead of just kind of giving up and accepting, oh, it's just this and this is how it's going to stay. Things I like to do is just, I like to golf. I like to swim. I love anything to do with the water. Hiking if it's not too strenuous, but preferably not up these big hills or these big mountains over here. So I've worked with two of the women here at this clinic for quite a few years, and they've taught me a ton of stuff to do. So I do all the medical equipment here. I'm also a phlebotomist, so I can draw blood, help out with that. But mostly I like doing all these treatments here. So
I'm curious, you said you had issues with medicine. It wasn't always, you were sensitive to it. Was there a breaking point that kind of made you say, I'm done, this is it?
yeah, I'd say several. I mean, just when you've just had it, I just kind of I just got tired of going to those doctors and all they tell you, every one of them, it's just anxiety and depression. It's just anxiety and depression. And I'm like, no, it's not. And I hear that all the time, especially from women. You know, these doctors, you get 15 minutes with them. They listen for the first 2 minutes. They've already decided what drug they're going to give you, and out the door you go. End of story. They don't bother to check your thyroid completely. They just run a TSH or your hormone levels, which for women, it fluctuates all the time. And as we get older and after children, everything is constantly changing. And the stress factors on women is a lot more than it is on men just because of those hormone imbalances and changes. And so I just started looking at, natural herbs, spices, healthy eating, what things to avoid in my diet, how much exercise to get, how much sunlight. And I came across a book in one of my other clinics that was, I wish I could remember the exact name. I can see the title, but it had to do with grounding. And it said in there how important it is to get outside in the sun, be barefoot, and try to do it in an open area where there's no power lines, away from Wi-Fi towers, as far away you could get, as far away as you can get from that stuff, and let the earth recharge you, because we are water and electricity, and we need the Earth's magnetic force in order to recharge us. And that's why people like to get out and go up in the mountains, to go camping. That's why people love to garden, work in their yard, because they don't realize it, but they're grounding with Mother Earth and they're getting everything they need from that. And then you just feel better. You start calming down, the stress, the cortisol levels go down because you're not as stressed. And it does a ton of healing for the body. And so from there, I was introduced to the PEMF machine. That's just a quicker way, like let's say you have a broken leg and you can't go outside, get on the PEMF, lay it there for 20, 30 minutes or longer if you can. The first time I was introduced to it, Dr. Oz had just had a whole segment on it. And he had a lady there that had brought it in, talked about it, did all that. And I was super curious. So I just kept getting used to that machine and doing it more and more. And we had a patient that every either fall or winter, he broke something. And his mom always brought him in because he was an athletic little kid. He was just a goer. But she would bring him in. We would wrap that thing in this coil. It's just a coil that has the energy in it because he was on a cast. And he'd lay there for 30 minutes and we'd just visit. And no kidding, his doctor was always amazed at how fast his bones would heal just from being on that PEMF and allowing that extra energy to come in. So I started digging deeper, and I actually found an article that somewhere in the 1950s, they had this big PEMF machine that they actually used to use for broken bones in a hospital. And but yeah, we don't do those things anymore, which is kind of sad. But there's lots of good, easy ways to get rid of inflammation, pain, everything by doing a more natural way and letting the body help itself.
Well, are we getting political if we say our theories why they don't do that stuff anymore?
You want to go down that hole?
Maybe not.
I don't know. You know, in the picture that I saw, it was, do you remember back in the day when you'd see the computers and it was just tower after tower after tower and it'd be huge?
Yeah.
Like before we have these little pocket cell phones, right? That's how big that piece of equipment was in the hospital. So maybe at the time it wasn't cost effective enough. And those that believed and liked it so much, maybe it was like, but how are we going to bring this big unit to every single hospital? How are we going to, I think there's lots of reasons, because nowadays we can get all those things smaller and more compact and easier accessible. In fact, they have to send a portable PEMF into space with the astronauts, because once they're out of the Earth's atmosphere, they don't get that recharge. And there's an article about a Russian astronaut, how sick he got coming home from being in space. Depressed, lethargic, muscle weakness, felt flu-like symptoms. He just thought he was going to die, and they could not figure out what to do for him. And then somebody finally realized, oh my gosh, he's been away from the Earth's atmosphere so X amount of days. We just need to get him recharged. So put him on the PEMF. I don't know how long it was or how many days it took, not a ton, but then he started feeling better and come around. And it's really quite a fascinating article to read. And he just said, I would never do that again. It was the worst place he had ever been, mentally and physically. Just being, he said, you were just empty. There was just nothing. There's a book out by Bryant Myers called PEMF, The Fifth Element of Healing. And that's an excellent book to understand the science behind all this and all the people that were involved in this kind of healing and this kind of technology that is non-invasive. It's relatively cheap, and it just does so many good things for the body.
So the PEMF, you guys have that at the clinic, and Nate and I both had a chance to try it, and we'll talk a little bit more about that outside of speaking with you, Tish. But it stands for pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, correct?
Yes.
You gave us a spill. You were the one that set us up on a lot of these things that we were able to try at the clinic. What do you tell someone when they're trying it for their first time to what they expect or what they're going to feel?
Well, I think I got this comment from one of you guys. Am I going to get shocked? Because first thing people say, was it going to shock me? It's like, no, you're just going to feel a thumping, vibrating type of motion, and I said, there's a charge in there, an electricity, but it's set exactly to what our field is.
Right.
So you just feel that pulse or whatever. And I just tell them to lay there. And if I know that they're really nervous, I'll just sit with them and talk to a bit, but I just have them do some relaxing breathing exercises and just sit and, relax for a minute, let it happen. 8 times out of 10, if they're laying there more than 15 minutes, they'll fall asleep. That's how relaxed they become, even with that. And they always say, I'm surprised with all that feeling of thumping and energy. I'm always surprised that I fell asleep. And they go, but I feel good, because sometimes people just don't know how to sit still for long enough to, let something, maybe during a massage for an hour, you pay good money for a massage, you better relax and enjoy it, right? The PEMF works very much that way. And especially if you're in pain, because it helps reduce so much inflammation that it really takes away that pain.
It's funny you say that people just have a hard time sitting there with nothing to do, just laying there with the machine doing its job, right? Because we're so removed from that in our society these days. And maybe it's for better or worse. I think the last couple of years, what's gone on, maybe it's given people a chance to reassess how they feel about taking care of themselves and their bodies. Have you seen a large uptick in the clinic because of 2020 and what's happened in the last little while?
Oh, definitely. People are a lot more conscious about their diet, the air we're breathing, water intake, and really even avoiding our electronics and learning just to shut down and step away for a while. I mean, there's no reason that I should be driving down the road looking over and some guy driving next to me, he's looking and scrolling and talking and texting. I'm just like, dude, really? Um, because we just have to unplug for our sanity. And that's one thing with the PEMF. You cannot have electronics on you. If you have hearing aids, we take them out. If you have a pacemaker, you have to do it below the waist. And that's after we clear it with your doctor. But there's no cell phone, no credit cards, no key fobs, um, no Fitbit watches or the rings that people wear on their finger for health. None of that, because it'll wipe it out. And I think when people have to not do something like play on their phone and they just get to lay still because they know they can't, they have no other choice, they just realize, wow, I forgot what it was like to do this. Because half the time, people that have a hard time falling asleep, they haven't unplugged long enough just to let the whole system calm down, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, everything. It's just gear, gear, gear. You're just geared up all the time for just go, 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 do, do, do. It is exhausting. No wonder we're a sick society and a stressed out, society. We just push too hard, and for what? Shaving 5 and 10 years off your life and not enjoying quality of life because we just think we have to, I don't know.
We have to have it now, right?
Yep, instant gratification.
Yeah, I don't know if Brandon's old enough to remember that if you wanted to hang out with your friend or possibly even go out on a date with a girl, you had to call their house. And odds are they weren't home and you had to wait until they called you back. But we live in a society now
weird.
that if I text Brandon and he doesn't text me back within 30 minutes, you think you got to call the police because he's missing, right? It's just
Exactly.
It's a different world we live in. It's a lot faster than it was even just 20 years ago.
Yeah. And what about that busy signal, even if you were trying to call?
Oh, goodness. Yeah. I heard that the other day. I called somebody and it was busy. I'm like, what's this?
Yeah. There's a lot of things that have changed. And then you wonder why you get the way, or people get the way they do. I mean, it's constant. Like you said, instant gratification everywhere you go.
Yeah. And I've heard people too, they always say, because their body's so used to go, 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 that when they do take a vacation, they always get sick because they're not used. They say they get sick, but I don't know if it's a mental thing, because when they're go, 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 their mentality is, I can't get sick because I got to get stuff done. And then their body kind of, I'm guessing,
catches up
to them when they go on vacation and try to take a couple of days off. So just interesting how the mind works and the body works.
Yeah, I think that's 100% true. And then I think half the time when the body gets sick, it's not so much that you've got a certain virus or a certain bug as much as, the system just says that's enough, or else we're going to go into disease. We need to stop. We need to rest. We need to sleep, because that's the next step. When you run on that high stress like that, and that cortisol is always amped up, after a while, that imbalance is super hard on everything. And that's where disease sets in.
And it takes work to get back to that, right? So maybe someone off the street will come in for their first time and have a tough time with some of the things you guys do. Maybe they're not used to unplugging, right? I bet you've seen a lot of people change as they start coming in, I'd imagine.
Yeah, we have. And it's interesting because at first it's kind of a shock and they're like, wow, never thought of it that way. And they have a hard time comprehending. I mean, it's a lot of information to take in. I kid you not. It's so much. So we set it up so it kind of goes more in stages. Hopefully that it helps you more to understand and grasp, what the changes are and the different things that would help the human body for whatever. But I would say after about 4 to 6 months, maybe closer to 6 months, after they've got their labs in, maybe they've started balancing their hormones, or we get their thyroid fixed, or they clean up their diet, we start getting rid of some inflammation, whether it's brain fog, gut health, there's just a plethora of things that we look at. Then they're just like, wow, this is like a whole new world and a whole new life for me. And even though they have to continue to practice new habits, I mean, that's all this is. This is a new habit and a new way of looking how to take care of your body, because you cannot live on Tylenol and ibuprofen and all those other things that we pacify ourselves just to get through, just to get through, just to get through, caffeine intake, which I'm guilty of. Today I'm drinking Yerba Mate. I know that that raises my cortisol levels. I know that that's hard on me. So, I'm an early to bed, early to rise person. Sometimes it's 4:30 or 5. Usually it's 5. But that's my best part of the day. I'm awake. I feel great. It's when I get most of my housework and everything else done before I go to work. Because after work, I'm pretty spent physically, emotionally, mentally. It's like I'm done, and I just do the bare minimum that I have to. But people are finding that their gut health gets better, their brain fog gets better. When you feel good, just overall, you're happier. And when you feel happy, things just seem to go better in life.
Agreed.
I agree. So who would you, if you guys were marketing on Facebook or whatever, what's your target market, or who do you target to come in and see you guys?
I would say all ages. We've got the anti-aging part, we've got the weight loss part. We treat a lot of chronic illness. We even have some younger children that we test for. So it can be anywhere from optimal health to autoimmune. It's like I took a phone call today. Somebody wanted to come in, and it was the question she had asked somebody on Instagram, and they said, "Oh, this is who you need to see. This is what clinic to go to." But she had held on to us for so long, she didn't know that person's name and stuff. But yeah, we have all ages, and it's just not here in Utah. We've got patients in Nevada, Wyoming, back east, Montana, Idaho. They make a long trip. Of course, telehealth is nice too, but yeah, we've got some very wonderful, experienced doctors, providers here that do some amazing things. And they're always taking classes, going to conferences, keeping up on the latest, things out there for health and wellness.
So somebody just wants, like they say, I just want to be healthier. I want to be basically in better health, take care of my body. What would the process be? They reach out to you, and then do you guys do like a exam, or how do they know what products or things they need to do when they go to the clinic?
There's a variety. We ask him, number one, what is your health goal, or why are you here today? And and let's just say that it's not autoimmune, it's not anything that's critical. It's just, I want to feel better, I want to feel healthy. So we'll ask them a list of questions that maybe how much sleep they're getting at night, any digestive issues, how many bowel movements they have a day. Do you have a lot of brain fog? Do you know if you have any allergies to food? Just everything. And then we'd run a bunch of labs. And that's probably the key there. Because you're gonna look at your thyroid. Is it doing all it's supposed to do to support the rest of the hormonal issues in the body? Then you're going to look at the hormones to make sure that they're in balance, that you're not under producing anything, because that will have to do with, especially testosterone for men and women. That has to do with your coping skills, your energy, your libido, your muscle building, everything. And then, you check your estrogen levels to make sure you have enough good estrogen so your heart stays strong. The rest of what was the word I'm looking for? Like the soft muscles, everything it's like a well-oiled machine, and every moving part needs to be working the best, because if the thyroid's off, your hormones are going to be off. If your hormones are off, sometimes that affects the thyroid. So you bring that all in balance, as well as, what's your lipid panel like? which is your cholesterol panel? How high is your sugar? Do you have problems with your A1C? You're going to go through the whole gamut just to see from top to bottom where a person's at. And then you say, where would you like to start? Let's say there's 3 or 4 problems. A lot of times, if you fix one problem, the body starts readjusting itself to fix everything else. As long as you are paying attention to avoid a certain food maybe that's triggering things, or remember to take your medication or supplements the way you're supposed to. So that's where we start. You have that first meeting with why are you here, what do you need, what's your ultimate goal. Do your labs. Then after they come back, you have another meeting, and then that's when we come up with your treatment plan. And then you get to choose from there, what you want to do and what you want to follow. So, and that's what I'm saying. That process is really boom, lots of new information, lots of new ways of thinking things. And then you just start practicing it from there.
I was going to say, there are a lot of different products and services that you offer at the clinic, different treatments. It's probably a better way to say it, right? What is maybe just some of the top things that you can offer somebody?
The rest of the treatments we have the PEMF, of course. We have a hyperbaric chamber. We have the brain tap machine, which you guys got to experience the brain tap,
right?
Which is a guided meditation. And that's amazing too. That's amazing for relaxation. It just takes you through all those relaxing stages of sleep. Like when you first fall asleep, you're kind of in the beta, theta. Anyway, there's like 4 stages of sleep, I believe. And I'm sorry, I can't remember all the names off the top of my head. But you just sit back and relax and listen to that guided meditation. But it has those lights that help take you into that faster and deeper. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the program, it brings you out. But there's talks on eliminating negative thinking, just some stress releasing one, stuff for weight loss, stuff for smoking, stop smoking, or stop drinking, PTSD, tons of them. So that's the brain tap. We also have we have a treatment for women for incontinence, and we do a lot of those, and that's a good machine. And also with that, there's some microneedling, so you can have done on your face to clear up any acne scars, or it helps produce collagen and a good blood supply to the body or to the face. You can do the face, the neck, and the décolleté, which is your chest area. So that's amazing. And also for erectile dysfunction for men, we have another machine, and it works with sonic waves to help break down the calcium in the blood so that you get a better blood flow. So, and of course, you're always checked out physically to make sure there's no other issues, diabetes or hypertension. And then, you get everything nice and healthy and stuff, and then you can do these other treatments. We have infrared lights, which is good for healing. And did you guys get in the infrared light when you were here?
We didn't do the light, but they turned it on for us so we could see what it was like.
Yeah. And, there's saunas, hot saunas and stuff too. But that would be nice to sit in on those cold days. I always think of that when I think of infrared. But that's an amazing treatment too. They all have amazing qualities just for different parts of the body. And some people like to do one over the other. I think it's whatever resonates to them.
Right.
Or yeah, for them. And then we have our IV center. So a lot of people, before they go on vacation, or sometimes when they come back from vacation, they'll do like a Myers bag, which is clear full of vitamins, just to help boost up your immunity system and everything and get you going. That's really nice to have on hand. So anytime you're feeling run down or yucky, just to get a nice IV, better than swallowing a bunch of pills.
And what was that machine? It kind of shakes you. You stand on it.
That is good to stimulate your lymphatic system. And that's what they call it, a shaker plate.
Shaker plate. Okay.
Yeah. And you just stand on that. There's several programs you can choose from on that. Depending on, what kind of like lymphatic drainage you're looking for. So that's really good for that. Plus people that maybe don't have the best veins, or veins that are hard to find, we just call them a hard stick for an IV. We'll put them on the shaker plate and the PEMF before we send them down to the IV room. And it just really helps get the blood moving and getting everything going so that we can, not have to poke them so many times. So those are very, very nice to have here for, just for that, for the blood draw or the IV sticks.
And then I know we didn't get as much into it, but they offer ketamine. Is that what it's called as well?
Yep, we do. We do have ketamine sessions. They can either do as an IV or an IM shot or a troche. And then we have, then they can have counseling, or they can actually use the brain tap too. There's a segment just for ketamine treatments in the brain tap, so that it'll help, with the depression and the anxiety, PTSD, and it goes hand in hand and works really well. So that's nice to have too. People are having a lot of good success with that.
Right. Well, yeah, you guys, there's a lot that's offered there, a lot of ways to help people either reach a certain goal or just get back to where they feel like they should be. And I think it was great that we got to come and check some of it out. I really like the brain tap. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm not as big on the PEMF, but I know that Nate appreciated that one.
I love that stuff. Yeah.
I was just
Good.
scared I was going to get electrocuted the whole time. I was the one that made that comment to you. So
I know, I think I remember that. Well, you should come in, let me put you on for 20 minutes and get you relaxed. And then you'll like, oh, when you get hurt, first time you get hurt, you come see me.
Still.
And then you'll say, you know what? Tish is right. This is so awesome.
Right. But it's just funny just how much you can learn, even just the short amount of time we were in there. There's something that you said to me that I've thought about so much since, in between the time when I went to the clinic and now I got a dog. And there was a comment you made about someone was showing you something. They did some kind of a test on someone's blood, and they said that they can tell anytime someone's had a pet, anytime in their life. And I don't know why I always think about that, but since getting the dog, I'm like, Tish told me like that thing's in my blood now forever. But
yeah, it's weird what we because we look through a dark field microscope, and that's when you can identify different things in people's blood, and those that have animals and stuff like that. It was interesting. That was when we also did the PEMF under the dark field, the before and the after.
Right. But yeah,
So,
I think that just goes to show you guys, you know your stuff. You guys have a lot of knowledge there, and I think anybody could benefit from even just one visit, what they can kind of get outside of their box and look at things a different way. And so I thought it was great for us to be able to come by and give it a shot.
well, we were glad to have you. It was fun. It is always fun to have new people come and experience stuff, from a different point of view.
Yeah. And it's a very welcoming environment. We met like probably 5 or 6 different people, and they're all very kind and very like it felt like they wanted to help you. Maybe sometimes you go into the doctor's office, it's a little cold and stuffy, and I didn't feel that at all at the clinic. It felt very warm and welcoming, and like people really just want to help you out.
Well,
Keep you
good.
healthy.
I'm glad you felt that way. We enjoy what we do. We love it's busy and it's hectic for some days, but most days. But we love it, and we have a good team that we just try to coordinate everything the best we can, and make it nice and welcoming. So I'm glad you guys had that.
Just kind of to echo what you said, I feel like everybody there was pretty passionate about what they were doing,
Right.
compared to what Brandon was kind of getting at, where you go to some doctor's offices, it's a job for them and they're just working from 9 to 5, where they could care less if you're healthy or not. They just want their pay. And you guys felt like you really want to help people, and like you guys were passionate about what were doing. So, and I'm guessing being alternative medicine, even if you try it and it doesn't work, it's not going to hurt you in the long run, right? Compared to some other medicines you could take and end up in
Good
worse
point.
condition than you when you started. So it's worth a shot.
How can they get in?
So just they can call, leave a message if they can't get through, because literally the phone rings all day, and we just go in order as best we can. You know what I mean? And leave a message of what you're looking for and what you'd like, and then we'll get back to you, get you set up, get you talking to a case manager to answer all your questions, find the perfect provider for you, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks again for giving us the VIP treatment.
Well, you're very welcome. You're welcome anytime, guys. So thanks. Thank
Okay.
you for everything.
It's actually been, is it maybe a couple months since we first went out there?
I don't know. It could have been at least a month or so since we went out there. I just remember it was like a nice day. Like people were disc golfing across the street.
Yeah, they
And
were.
then we had that big snowstorm. It was confused. It was a confusing winter slash almost spring.
But it was great to talk with Tish again. She, as mentioned, she was the one that kind of rolled out the red carpet, helped set us up when we went in, and was so gracious to speak to us again today and tell us about the clinic a little bit more, the what goes into it. So yeah, thanks again to Rising Health Clinic for having us out. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the different things you tried out there, Nate. You got to try, as we said, a couple different things: the brain tap, the PEMF, and that shake plate were the main things that we tried.
Yeah, the shake thing I've tried before. Somebody, what was it? It was like a insurance office had one years ago.
Huh.
And when I was doing some networking back in the day, and I've seen those at stores too. So so I've tried those before, but the what do you call it? The PEM
PEMF,
yeah, we'll just say electric therapy.
electric shock.
I like love that stuff. I'll tell a little tangent story. I think it was junior year chemistry class. We had a student teacher for a little bit, and he brought in this like almost looked like a curling iron, like wand type thing, and it would send a shock, but you could see the electricity going from the wand to your hand or whatever you were shocking, and it had different levels of intensity. And so the kids were coming up, and he was shocking everybody, and I came up and he shocked me, and I didn't move my hand or like even like flinch.
Right.
So he's like, "Well, let me try again." So he does a little high intensity, and then nothing. And he turned it all the way up, and you could see a continuous line of the electricity going from the wand to my hand. And he was just like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, I love this, man. Feels good." And he's like, after he did it for a few seconds, he's like, maybe don't touch a computer for the next half hour. I love like the electric shock stuff. And so when she did it, I told her to turn it up. She thought it was going to hurt me. And I'm like, no, I mean, you can go pretty high with me. Yeah, it is pretty. And the cool thing is like, I think she put it on like my hip, and it's kind of interesting. Like you remember, like, I don't know if you had the same experience, but my leg would like
Just like flinching kind of.
flinching, involuntary flinching. And but it was super relaxing, super fun. I could probably sit on the machine for hours at a time, just putting in different parts of the body and getting that electric flow. But I've seen people at parks. I'm outside quite a bit during the summer, and I've seen a lot of people going to parks lately doing that whole grounding thing where they take their shoes off, and a lot of them usually find like a tree that has some dirt around it, and they kind of look like a dog that just went to the bathroom and they're trying to rub their feet. But it's something that I've researched a little bit, and I try to do it sometimes in the summer, take my shoes off and just kind of walk around the grass area. Or if I go to my kids' soccer games, something like that, try to do a little bit of grounding. I think it's a good thing. I think there's a lot of, I guess you said it's not really alternative medicine, but a lot of things that we've gotten away from in the society because we've gone to Western medicine, and we rely so much on drugs that we forget there's a lot of natural ways to heal and keep your body up to par. What did you think of and you started off doing what is it called again? Sorry, the mind one?
Brain tap.
Brain tap. You did brain tap while I was doing the shock therapy. But
Yeah, it was pretty relaxing. I'm not the best at relaxing myself. A little bit of my ADD tendencies I have. And I think a lot of it, again, is self-inflicted just because of the world we live in these days.
right.
But I don't really take the time to just unwind or relax. And so it was good to have that for I want to say it was like 20 minutes, about 20 minutes that I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And it did calm me down and kind of set the tone for the rest of my day. So I thought that was great. It has you, I mentioned it in our interview. Did you do the same one, the Enchanted Forest?
Yeah.
So it just kind of has you picture that you're in this forest. And I mean, my mind went right to Legend of Zelda. That's the enchanted forest that materialized in my mind. So even then, I couldn't even create my own forest. I had to use one that Nintendo had already created for me. Maybe not the best, but I'm sure with practice and some discipline, you can figure out doing that on your own. But I thought it was great. It was kind of trippy. There was times when I just kind of maybe faded out of consciousness a little bit. Is that the right way to say it? Like consciousness?
I don't know. It's kind of like right before you fall asleep, you know, that moment where you're
Yeah,
still awake, but you're almost kind of dreaming as
right.
well. The beginning stages of falling asleep is what I felt like.
Yeah, that's what it put me in. And I like that. That's a good feeling. And so yeah, it was enjoyable. That was probably my favorite part about the whole thing.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I mean, we switched places and you did the shop and then I went over and did the mind tap. And my dad was a hypnosis expert when I was younger. That was kind of his hobby. So it kind of reminded me a little bit of that, where you just kind of like sit down, relax, and then somebody just kind of is talking to you and trying to get you into a deep relaxation
Right.
stage. Because I think they had like you have the glasses on that have some light therapy going on, which is interesting, but you're supposed to have your eyes closed. Then you got the surround, not the surround sound, but you got stereo headphones on, so they're the talking would go from one ear to another, if I remember correctly, and then there'd be
And there's a
somebody
random
talking.
voice that would
There's
come in
yeah,
sometimes.
and then another person's voice too, right? So it's like very hypnotic. My favorite part of the Enchanted Forest, because they've been I mean, it's not a new technology that they're
Right.
doing, so that some of the tracks, or I guess you say tapes, were a little old. Because my favorite part of the Enchanted Forest ones when he tells you to not worry about any faxes. I'm like,
You
it's
mean
been a
fax?
long time since I've had to worry about a fax. I mean, I'm old enough that been in real estate long enough that we used to get our offers and send offers via fax, but it's been a long time since I had to fax anything. So
Hey, when I was still working at a bank branch, we still used a fax machine.
did you
But yeah, it's aged. It's aged for sure. But the techniques
concept?
are tried and true,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it still worked. Still worked. It just made me chuckle a little bit when he got to that part. But
Yeah.
yeah, very cool experience. I mean, both of them were really. I wonder if you could do the brain tap and the electro therapy at
Whoa, whoa,
the same
whoa.
time.
Too much relaxation, Nate. Come on.
With that, is that too much? Could
Too
you do
much.
that, the electro and the infrared all at the same time,
Oh my gosh. While you're getting like a some kind of IV treatment.
and an IV treatment? Yeah, that's that's going back to our theory that everybody's in a hurry nowadays. So that's the way to knock it all out at once.
Yeah. It
And
might
one thing I don't think she even brought up, and we haven't mentioned either, they have that oxygen machine. Did she bring that up? I don't
the
remember.
hyperbaric chamber. Yeah.
Did she?
Hmm.
Okay. Um, but that one was a little bit more intense that we couldn't try it
I
out.
crawled inside, but I didn't do it. And a lot of the stuff they said, like the ketamine stuff, you need to have you can't just come in off
Clearance.
the street and do something like that. Yeah, you bring up the all the pills, all the drugs that we take here. And I sometimes listen to Joe Rogan, his podcast, and one of his favorite things to talk about, he always brings up is that here in the US, it's only in the US and I think New Zealand are the only two countries where they allow commercials about drugs, commercials about whatever medicine they want you to take.
Mm-hmm.
Ask your doctor if
This is right for
this
you.
medicine is right for you, right?
Right.
And I know that there's regulations as to what the doctors can receive for recommending those drugs and stuff, but I've personally never gone into a doctor and said, "Hey, I heard about this drug on TV. Like, should I take this or whatever?" I've never done that, and I'm assuming people do because it's such a. I mean, anything you watch on TV, how many ads are you going to see for that? For some kind of drug.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you watch TV in the morning,
Oh yeah,
well, morning TV is usually the older generation's time to watch TV. So you see a lot of the life insurance commercials,
yes.
different medicines,
Reverse
different
mortgages.
reverse mortgages. But I think it's it's in recent years. I mean, maybe it's been 20 years where before they would have commercials and they didn't have to disclose anything wrong with the medicine. They could just only talk benefits. And I feel like it's only been, and then at the end, they would have like the fine print, but nobody could read it. I
Right.
feel like it's only been I don't know how long it's been, but where now they have to, at the end, the last 30 seconds of the commercials, them listing off all the ways you can die from having this medicine or how much diarrhea you're going to get.
Everything gives you diarrhea.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting. So a lot of times when I see the commercial, I'm like, oh, that looks great. And then you're like, ooh, look at all the side effects that people may or may not have.
Which sometimes the side effect is the very thing you're trying to treat.
Right.
Like this is going to reduce your blood pressure, but it may also increase your blood pressure.
And if you die, please see your doctor.
Do not take this if you're allergic to it.
Yeah. Anyways, or if you're on this and this medicine. So
That's funny, but I think it's cool, like, to know that there's a place like this where you can go and get something different. You can have a mix of the Western, maybe what we
medicine.
consider now traditional medicine, and some of the functional or alternative homeopathic approaches to things. We can have a good mix, right?
Yeah. And I don't know. I've heard a lot of those stories of people trying stuff that are different with different diseases and it working out for them. So I think there's a lot of truth in the using the natural things from the earth rather than the artificial to help heal the body. I guess we could just end the episode with my friend always says on Facebook every day. He says, touch nature, drink water, be kind.
That's a good way to send us off. Thanks for listening to This Is a Place podcast.
And this was a place we just talked about.